This is Wide Angle with Ashok Vyas. Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and today we have the pleasure of talking to someone who is finding balance between, call it modern life, and if I call it ancient life, that probably would not be the right way to refer to the spirit which is unfolded for us by Vedanta, by Guru Parampara, by the very essence of that which we call as Bharatiyata. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Balaji Srinivas with us today. Namaskar.
Namaste.
Balaji, you were in New York, Chicago, in the field of academics, in the field of finance, and then you moved back to India. So, share with us your journey in terms of these steps, external steps, as well as the internal journey in deciding to go back.
Okay. I grew up in Calcutta, and then I came to America in 1985 to study for my undergraduate, and I was studying in California. And then after my undergraduate days, I got married, and both my wife and I, we went to Chicago to study for our respective PhDs. And we studied at the University of Chicago, and there near the university is the Ramakrishna Ashrama. So because it's so close, just by chance, we got close to the Ramakrishna Ashrama, and I suppose that was in a way the beginning of getting to know some of the Vedanta literature and all those things, as well as some of the formalization, as you call it, of communicating with the Lord. And then after that, we came to New York to work for a couple of years. Then we thought we would go back to India to sort of, not sure why, we had a child and we wanted our child to grow up in India. We went back to India.
I'll just sort of rewind back in terms of the communication.
Sure.
You said you came to work in New York, and I believe you were working in Wall Street.
Yeah, I used to work for JP Morgan those days in New York. And so yeah, after my PhD, I did a PhD in mathematics at the University of Chicago. So then we came to Wall Street to work in finance. And so I had a connection with Ramakrishna Ashram. I remember when I first came to New York, I even stayed in Ramakrishna Ashram while I was looking for a house to stay and all those things. Then we went back to India, but we lasted in India only for about 1 year. Then again got transferred out to Hong Kong and Singapore. Then we lived in Hong Kong and Singapore for another, I don't know, I want to say almost 8-9 years. Then in 2005, finally, we came back to India. That time, definitely, we wanted to. I was keen. My wife was also keen to further our spiritual growth or something, at least external spiritual growth. So we came to Ramakrishna. We came to Bangalore because we knew there was a big Ramakrishna ashrama there. But that inspiration didn't come from there at all. It came from somewhere else. And so when we came back, we then got in. Then by just a set of circumstances, we managed to meet and become acquainted with the really the traditional Indian masters. And I guess that is also when a lot of things became when a lot of the development until there got put into context and got understood clearly.
We always have heard, and we still say, and I don't deny that India is a divine land. But even in India, there are many people who find themselves they are lost in terms of direction of reaching to the point where they have harmonious equilibrium with themselves. Talking about it with respect to the values which are unfolded by Sanatan Dharma today, and you gave a talk in New York about this subject referring to Upanishadic Vakya Satyameva Jayate also. Share in your view where we stand when we say Sanatan Dharma today.
Yeah. I think most people are confused simply because simply because of lack of guidance. Somebody's father has got some idea of what is in the Upanishad. That person, that father might himself have not read Upanishad. He might have read some condensed version somewhere. He might have picked up some phrase that appealed to him. That phrase will suddenly become the person's mantra, the father's mantra. So maybe he was living, maybe he has come to America so many years ago, lived a very one-sided life based on some notion of religion or value that he took away with him. Might have been one-sided. Then he brings his children up that way. And the children grow up thinking, I want to have nothing to do with Hindu religion because that is what my father has told me. As it turns out, what the father has told him has itself nothing to do with Hindu religion. So religion, whether you call it religion, these values are actually Indian values. I don't think you have to put them and bracket them with any particular sect or any particular religion. It's an Indian value. But then that value has to be, we're talking about Satyameva Jayate. That is on every piece of currency that every Indian uses to buy bread and milk. So, it is nothing Hindu about it. But if someone wants to convey to their children what that means, then that someone must himself have some breadth of vision so that he doesn't convey it in a way that creates a narrow-minded next generation. So to understand those things, a person need to have either been exposed via reading or listening to someone who knows more than him and someone who can explain the whole context to him. And then more importantly than hearing it, he must have thought about it and processed it in his own life, so that when he talks about something like this, he comes across as real. If someone says, I am talking about Satyameva Jayate, one thing is to say, oh, that means you've never told a lie. I cannot claim I have never told a lie. But if it means you have no idea what this thing means at all, and if you are not living and if you have not been seen, when someone observes you closely as someone who is trying to live up to that ideal, nobody will take you seriously, whether you are a friend or a guru or a father, and I think that is why the next generation gets confused. So I think the best thing over here particularly would be to have, like you all are doing in these satsangs, where somebody who knows a little bit, maybe only 2-3 steps ahead, but everybody gets together, talks, and then there is some discussion, some vimarsha, where everybody shares their views and gets a chance to reflect upon these so-called Vedic sayings and what they mean to you, what each person thinks it means to them. And just talking about it in the presence of intelligent people will hopefully, with the grace of the Lord, will hopefully lead to an introspection that leads to improvement.
What you say makes perfect sense, and at the same time, there are some questions on the sidelines, like why this path, call it a path or way of life, as we refer to as Sanatana Dharma, should be so complicated as someone lives a life taking a part of it and he's not exposed to. Is it so complicated?
No. So that's a good question, and we should talk a little bit about that. Let us just take what we're talking about, Satyam. So very simply, there are many people who are either say take a very Christian view of truth, Christian, not religion, but just as a word, tell the truth. I just tell the truth. I am a good person, I tell the truth and I am fine. Or they take, let us just even take a Gandhian view of it, as people understand Gandhi. I will just always tell the truth, and it will be like a very painful truth telling, but that will be my motto of my life. I will tell the truth. It's also certainly a laudable ideal. But if that is what you have, let us say, that will be a simple way, as you say, it will be much simple. Why go Sanatana Dharma? Let us just tell the truth. When life crisis faces you, that value itself will not protect you. The crisis will tend to unsettle you, because you have not thought deeply about what is the truth of a situation, what is the truth inside me. So when a crisis hits you, it is possible that this ideal, that you have very simplified ideal that you have decided to make your life's motto, it will let you down and you might let it down. Then what happens? I think unless you face those crises, or at least you have thought through how you will react in those crises, you may not feel the desire to know or need anything more. In the end, even at one level, people need all of America is looking for a solution to handle life better. Surely merely telling the truth can't help you handle life better. It needs something more. And so it needs to be in, so I don't know if you call it complication, but the need to sort of go into it a little bit more and engage a little bit more comes automatically when you have a crisis.
So Balaji, just trying to make it practical for people to connect and of course the connection with oneself is significant and important. But how you connect, as you were mentioning about this person, so how you connect with people around you. So in what way the vision that comes to us from Sanatana Dharma helps us in sustaining harmony in home. And also allow me to add another thing. We are also facing crisis situation in terms of the lack of employment in America and everywhere. There is this need to earn and to earn more. So from these two major concerns that are common for most of the people, how would you say is the vision of Vedanta or Sanatana Dharma applicable as
Nothing is wrong with earning, and as you would know, the Purusharthas include Artha, and that is a perfectly legitimate thing. No one says that you mustn't earn and you must not drive a car and all those things. There is a certain responsibility you have. Should you be lucky enough to earn more than you need? Many people in this country are lucky enough to earn more than they need, and then the judicious spending of that money for purposes other than your own ever expanding needs is something that someone should have thought about. I don't mean just putting some charity in some undi or something, but some way. Whether that means again, suppose you are a person with some influence. You are a person in the television and you bring all. I've seen a lot of people in your show. Swamiji came, talk about these things. You are using your show in a way that everybody has something to give to society, to really think what they have to give and give it in the most intelligent way, not at the cost of their personal thing. But more importantly, what has happened is because, especially in this country, I think, people have forgotten the ability of just being silently by yourself and the comfort you get from that. There's always some media, there's always some noise. So everybody here can practice a few quiet moments by themselves, and people who are Indian can also, there's so much now available. Before you had to have physically some guru to come, etc. But nowadays there's so much media. You get tapes, DVDs, everything. So you can always be in touch with such satsang in books, in tapes, in DVDs. It's a matter of how you spend your time.
It's a matter of how you spend your time, and that is the crux of whatever is happening to us. Many times we feel that if I go, let's say, to attend a satsang, it will be boring, and if I go to a club, maybe it will be more interesting. And so people have their own way of deciding as to what is interesting for them.
Yeah.
Many people, those who have not experienced, they really feel that going to satsang or listening to a discourse is boring. What is your response to that, as well as what has been your own personal experience?
If going to a satsang is boring, then you're just not ready to go and sit in a satsang. Then you shouldn't force yourself to go into satsang. I think all these things will. My personal experience has been with people and with myself is that when you face a real crisis, very often there is something in some spiritual need inside you naturally that needs to be expressed. Then obviously you go to one direction. Others who don't, wait for it really as a crisis that has to come. And the crisis comes in a blessing, because the crisis forces you suddenly with a slap to look inside yourself, and then you get turned to this. Some people, the problem is, might face this crisis a little bit late in life, and then it's a little difficult to sort of organize themselves and get themselves the strength. So it's hard to sort of pontify and say, no, everybody should do this, and otherwise later on they'll be in trouble. That's like asking your kid to eat broccoli because later on he'll need the vitamins. He's not going to believe you until he has a problem.
So overall, you believe that there is a natural way which brings your interest towards certain things.
That is the grace of the Lord. The grace of the Lord is to, grace of the Lord is to pull you towards Him. That is the grace that you can be fortunate to be blessed with. From the greatest saints in India, there are people who had nothing to do with Lord at all. Suddenly there's an incident in their life, and by the scruff of the neck, God pulls them and brings them in His Sannidhi. That grace is always there. Question is, are we qualified to experience it? Uh, there have been analogies been put that the grace of the Lord is not some special thing that is in some particular place in some particular time. It is like the wind blowing, but only the boat with the unfurled sails will be able to take the benefit of the wind. So that in the Vedanta tradition we call it patrata. All we can do actually is to improve our patrata, qualify ourselves better to receive the grace. The grace is in fact pouring in full measure all the time. As big as your vessel is, that much you can accept.
So Balaji, before we conclude, share with us at any particular point of time you must have felt the intensity of this flow of grace. Maybe it was because of the environment that you were in, maybe some practices, probably some, if I use the word rituals or chanting, or is there anything that connects to experiencing the grace intensely?
I don't think anything can be done like that. I mean, there is no recipe that, suppose you do A, B, C, D, E and you finish, then you are ready to receive the grace and you will be able to feel. I think that ability to perceive the anugraha increases steadily with time. It is not in any dramatic event. Because the dramatic events, they do happen, but they are not in your control. The dramatic events happen when the Lord is present in a certain way and might feel that you are ready to receive something. So that do happen, but that is not anything that is in our control. And so, I cannot tell that there is. Of course, if it was there and if you have received it, then you will constantly be repeating the same activity to receive more, right? Naturally, let's say we all know that if we work from 9 to 5 in the morning, we get paid every 31st. So we all work from 9 to 5 every morning, so we get paid. Well, if you knew that you could receive a big set of grace every 31st, then we would be doing the same thing 9 to 5. But it's not there. That is why Shraddha comes in. To know that if you do the same practice every day, tirelessly, then the Lord can't help but shower the grace on you.
So Balaji, maybe I'm repeating this question, or maybe I'm making it a loaded question, but as we hear like this Satogun, Rajogun, Tamogun, so there must be certain practices which help in increasing the amount of Satogun in a particular individual, and maybe the practices that help in increasing that Satogun are probably going to be helpful in.
Yeah, the Gita lays it out very clearly in 2 times. Earlier on and in the 18th chapter, in the Amanitvam, Adambitvam, etc., the list of so-called virtues that are there in a perfected sage, which are not really something that we have seen. So those lists are the things that we have to aspire towards, and we modify our behavior accordingly. And modifying our behavior according to those values, which are all laid out very clearly, without any mystery. It's not there are mysterious sections of the Gita and there are unmysterious sections. This is an unmysterious section. This is a listing of gunas, of qualities. And practicing of those qualities, the Lord says, does increase Sattva-guna. So there is nothing, it's helplessly your Sattva-guna will be increased, should you practice accordingly. So that is, I think that will be actually a pretty easy question to say that, someone says, what are the things, qualities I must practice in order to increase my patrata and increase my sattva guna, then you merely point them out to the 2 list in the Gita and they can read it, put it on their bulletin board and practice every day. It's as simple as that actually. I mean, doing that is a simple, practicing is not simple, but doing it is a simple.
So now before we conclude, let's quickly touch a little bit about the other talk that you had in New York. It was about Guru, the mother. Many of us are actually not really clear in terms of what is it that is referred to when someone says Gurus, because we just think about some person with certain type of clothing, and many of them sometimes do not live up to the ideals that they themselves preach. So we have kind of confused sort of mindset with the term guru, and then you say guru, the mother. So what is it?
Yeah, I hope that will be should be interesting, because you know it is again to do actually the Lord reminds us in the Gita, and we are all told when we hear from our gurus, and we are all reminded whenever we speak or hear nothing new. What we hear is only the Vedanta being interpreted for us. So even in the Vedantic vision, when you are born, your mother is your guru. You know that. We all know that. When we are born, we are helpless. We have to listen to what our mother has to say, and she is our guru, and she sustains you to a certain amount until you start having some intelligence and some questioning. Then you go to this dadi robe man, which you are saying, certain physical features, and you start asking him questions. But you go to him with a lot of faith, you believe him, and you ask him questions, and you think having belief in him and asking him questions is the right relationship, and he knows, you think this is it. If you can ask him enough questions, and if you have faith and you think you can ask him enough questions, then you can figure it all out, because he has figured it out. So if you ask him questions, eventually the secret will come plopping out and you will be all done. He knows it's not the case, yet he answers your questions. He is very kind to you, because if he knew that he doesn't have anything to give you like that, he wouldn't engage you in the first place. But because he is mother, he very kindly engages you and engages you and engages you until you grow into realizing that this guru has got nothing to do with what is really guru. And that guru is the divine mother. So the mother is your guru, then the guru becomes your mother, and then he shows you that the mother was your guru all the time. But that's a different mother. This growth is the Vedantic vision. But we are in one phase of it, and so whatever we find, this is mother, this is guru, we are happy.
So it was great being with Dr. Balaji Srinivas, multifaceted personality, if I say, intensely and with analytical mind that took him to mathematics or field of finance and field of spirituality. And as we say, thanks to you, just as a parting thought, many of us, when listen to these kind of conversations, we feel that what he was saying was making sense. But end of the day, or at the end of the conversation, we really do not have anything solid to hold on to. So if you give some 2-3 sort of bullet points, if I use the term from here, in terms of, I want to lead a life which is meaningful, and the way that I feel that it has been a successful life, then what should I do?
First, you have to know yourself. Then you have to believe in yourself. After knowing yourself, you have to believe in yourself. Those are the only things to be successful. You have to know what you're all about. For that, you have to be quiet, and you have to be look inside yourself. And you need guidance. So you need a guide of some kind. And if you pray to the Lord hard enough, that guidance will be given to you helplessly. And once that guidance is given to you, you get to look inside yourself. And once you look inside yourself and you know yourself, then you have to believe in yourself. That allows you to go down the path. I cannot capsulate it anymore.
I think this is great, actually. Know yourself and believe in yourself. And we believe what he said is really making sense. And it's definitely opening up the path that would lead the kind of joy which, if somebody asks you, you would not be able to tell them, as he has tried, but he could not tell. Such a pleasure having you here with us, Dr. Balaji Srinivas.
Jai Shankar.
Jai Shankar. This is Ashok Vyas thanking him and all of you for joining us.
Jai Shankar.
This is Wide Angle with Ashok Vyas.